outside. We don't have much time. Quick, put your helmets on. Because there are zombies on your lawn! Plants vs. Zombies, originally released in 2009 and developed by PopCap Games, is a tower defense game where you plant plants to defend against the undead coming to get your brains. With the help of your neighbor Crazy Dave, you have access to a wide variety of plants, from walnuts to pea shooters to torchwood and hypno shrooms. You face the zombies in 5 unique terrains. Your front yard at night, your backyard with your backyard with your pool at night, and the roof of your house. Each terrain offers a unique challenge. From at nighttime, sun not falling from the sky, so you have to use mushroom plants to gain sun, to the pool levels where you have to use lily pads to plant plants in the water, and the roof where you need to put a pot down because there's no soil on the roof. And at the very end, you face Dr. Zomboss in a final battle on the roof at night. The game was critically received exceptionally well, and it sold over 10 million copies. What's the course for arguably one of the most popular computer games ever? Well, to go straight to the DS, of course. Released in 2004, this was a handheld juggernaut for the gaming scene. The Nintendo DS was not only able to play DS games, but it also could play Game Boy Advance games, creating an entire back catalog of games for a brand new system. One of these new DS games, though, was a port of Plants vs. Zombies. It didn't release along with the DS, but it came out a bit after. In 2011. It released in 3 different ways. The first one being the game itself, the second one being a special edition with a pea shooter touch stylus for the DS, and the third one was a Walmart exclusive Yeti special edition that came with a Yeti posable figure. So we've talked about its packaging and the special editions, but what about the game itself? Is it a reliable copy of the computer game? Or is it just another cheap cash grab of a game that was so prevalent around the time on both the DS and the Wii? Well, it sure starts out the same. It starts out with the tutorial. A single line of grass and only one plant. It starts with the exact same tutorial as in all the other versions. Admittedly, it is a lower quality, but that is expected when you're on a smaller console, especially one with as small of a screen as the DS. Eventually, once you complete the tutorial, you have all 5 lines of grass open, and you have 4 plants, the standard starting lineup. This is an incredibly accurate version of the game. Genuinely, so far, it's perfect. It has everything right, and everything honestly looks and somewhat sounds okay. The music is a bit crushed, but again, what else could be expected when you're on the DS? Next up, of course, is the nighttime levels. You really do have everything. You have the mushroom plants, the sun doesn't fall from the sky, you even have the gravestones, which can spawn in more zombies at intervals. It's really easy to see why this game was so well reviewed, even on the DS. It's so simple, only an idiot could mess it up. We're gonna blast on through the next two because, if I'm being honest, there's only so much you can say when it's good. If it was bad, you could delve into why, but if I'm being honest, it is so faithful to the original, and the original is such a good game that, if I'm being honest, there's not a lot to say about the pool or the nighttime pool levels, except for one thing. Why does the fog look like that? I understand that it can be hard to make fog look good on a console on like the DS, but that is literally just the MS Paint spray can. It has me so confused that I'm stuttering my words. That is literally just the MS Paint spray can effect. I could do that. A baby could do that. My dog could do that. I don't get how you can mess up something that simple, frankly. It's not that hard to draw good fog, and the sprites look great. I don't get how they could mess it up that badly. But next up is, of course, the roof. And frankly, I think the roof is by far the best looking level in the game. Its quality is, frankly, uncompromised. It looks almost identical to the real thing if you were to kind of stretch it out a bit and maybe smooth it. But I think it is genuinely the highest quality backdrop, or I guess level theme, just because there's not a lot to it, so you can't really mess it up. Like the fog, you can't really mess it up unless you purposely try to. But something that they could have messed up, though, is the Zomboss fight. If I were to pick one part of the game that they would probably mess up in some horrific way, I'd imagine it would be the Zomboss fight. It's deceptively simple, but incredibly easy to mess up. You have them put down too many zombies, it's too hard. You have them put down too little, and it's too easy. You take out the massive fire and ice balls, and you remove a whole nother element of challenge. You don't show him enough, and he just doesn't take any damage, and the fight goes on for way too long. Like, they could have seriously messed the fight up, but they didn't. The fight is almost exactly 1-to-1 with the original version. Genuinely, I think that this game may be the best example of how to port a game ever. It is almost completely identical. However, where it isn't are some new things added to our next section, the mini-games. There are 3 original minigames exclusive to the DS version. Those 3 being Home Run Derby, Heat Wave, and Air Raid. Home Run Derby is kind of self-explanatory. You just gotta hit a ball and kill zombies if they get too close. Heat Wave, you have a limited number of plants and you have to move them around to complete a level. And Air Raid, which is a side-scrolling shmup where you shoot Dr. Zomboss and avoid flying enemies. I don't know what else to call them. It is pretty much just the plain levels of Cuphead, but slightly easier. And that was Plants vs. Zombies for the DS. Overall, a very faithful recreation of the computer and mobile port. Oh no. They're here. You get out of here. I'll fend them off. Man, I sure do love that mid-2000s GameCube game where you play as a monkey with really good music. No, not Donkey Konga, Super Monkey Ball! Super Monkey Ball. Developed by Amusement Vision and produced by Sega, this game has you in a ball and you're a monkey. You have to tilt the course to guide you towards the goal. It's very simple, but there's a lot of interesting things you could do with each level. However, we're talking about Super Monkey Ball 2, not the first one. But here's why. It's much better. The original Super Monkey Ball had its flaws. Lots and lots of flaws. But the second one improves on almost all of them, making it the perfect Super Monkey Ball game. Better than the new ones, better than the mobile ports, better than the DS one. This one is the best Super Monkey Ball, Super Monkey Ball 2. Super Monkey Ball 2. Of course, the sequel to the original Super Monkey Ball was released in 2002 and, as said before, developed by Amusement Vision and produced by Sega. And it has over 100 levels. The game has a story mode, which we're going to go over the actual story of at the end. But the story mode consists of 10 worlds, each with 10 levels. So, let's go through those, and as I said before, at the very end we'll go through the actual story itself. These levels are Jungle Island, which of course is a very grassy, kind of jungly theme, as the name implies. Volcanic Magma, which takes place inside a volcano, so it's all very kind of red and orange. Under the Ocean, which is water themed, so obviously it's blue. Inside a Whale, which is city themed, because that's what's inside whales. Amusement Park, which is very pink and kind of light red color, which I guess light red is technically just pink, but it's very fun, it's very colorful, very pretty. Then you have the boiling pot. You're in a boiling pot. Pretty self-explanatory. And then you move on to the washing machine. I promise you, this will make more sense once we go through the story. Anyways, after the bubbly washing machine, you move on to the Clock Tower Factory. It's a clock tower and a factory, multi-purpose thing. Then you move on to the Space Colony. Again, it'll make more sense at the end, just trust me. Space Colony is really cool, it's kind of futuristic, but not as futuristic as the final world, Dr. Bad Boon's base. Again, give me 10 more seconds, then I'll tell you all about who this guy is. And those are the levels from the story mode. Overall, they have a wide variety of not only themes, colors, but also the great music that is in Monkey Ball. Okay, so we're gonna go over the entire story in less than 5 minutes. Basically, there's this evil scientist named Dr. Bad Boon, and he's stealing all the bananas, and he's the one who made the mazes. So they have to go get all the bananas back, right? But he wants to marry Mimi, the girl monkey. So then, since she doesn't want to marry him, he puts a bomb in a volcano to blow up their home island, obviously. But then Gon punches the bomb into his blimp, making the blimp crash into the ocean. Alright? Pretty simple. But then, he's hiding in a pirate ship, and then they find him, and then he swims up, right? But then, the monkeys are like, we caught you. And then, there's a whale behind them, and the whale eats them, right? Okay, got it. Right? So whale eats them. They're in the island. They all want to get out. And then, they all do. Pretty much. Oh, sorry. The whale then spits them out. Or, sorry, shoots them out. And then Dr. Bad Boon has a helicopter. And the helicopter takes them to the carnival. Because that's where helicopters take you. And then they go up to a creepy clock tower, right? And inside the clock tower, Dr. Bad Boon is making robot eyes, which are evil, right? So then Dr. Bad Boon shrinks them down, and then he sneezes them into a stew. Again, I did say that this story would make more sense. However, he then does his laundry and then gets into a tub, and then they fly into his clothes and then tickle him, and then he shoots him big again. This story doesn't make much sense now that I think about it, really. So yeah, anyways, evil monkey eyes, right? And then they get exploded. And then Dr. Baboon goes to space. And then once he is in space, he wants to shoot a big beam to destroy the island, which is bad. So like they have to go in, and Gon yet again punches the beam so the beam doesn't go. And then they land, and then Dr. Baboon gives up. And that is the end of the story. However, multiple times throughout the story, they chant E-E-Poo in a magical girl transformation setting. Magical spell is E-E-Poo. Why are they screaming about E-E-Poo? I'm sorry. Sometimes I just get a little upset when there's weird little monkeys dancing around singing about poo. Okay, before we get into what I think about the game, we just have something else that we need to go over really quick. The secondary main mode of the game, which is broken up into 4 difficulties. You have beginner, advanced, expert, and master, in that order. Master only unlocks after you've completed the other 3 flawlessly. Beginner has 10 levels, advanced has 30, expert has 50, and master only has 10 because those 10 levels are the hardest levels in the entire game. So, we've talked about the story mode, the other options, the story itself, but what do I think about Super Monkey Ball 2? Overall, I think it deserves the respect it gets as being one of the best, not only GameCube, but Sega games ever made. The concept is so unique, the execution is spot on, and it has a perfect blend of not only challenging levels, but a rewarding play style that's just so fun to learn, conquer, and master. And that was Super Monkey Ball 2. Overall, the game's really fun, with lots of challenges and some of the hardest levels that have ever been put in video games. You think Crash Bandicoot is hard? You think Dark Souls is hard? This is Monkey Dark Souls. This game is too hard. Too hard. Make it easier. Not that easy, but easier. Anyways, I better get out of here. And as we all know, when I end a video, I have to do the Noah's Game Review Magical Transformation dance. So, might as well do that, huh? Whoa. Whoa. What's that? No! Tetris was originally released in 1985 by Alexei Pajitnov in Russia. Later, it came to the Nintendo Entertainment System in November of 1989. That's the version we're going to be talking about today. This version of Tetris has 2 different modes. A-Type in which the goal is to get a high score by going through level by level and achieving points for clearing lines and placing tetrominoes, the name for the pieces. And B-Type. It's more of a puzzle mode, where the board starts filled in with certain blocks, and your goal is to clear a certain amount of lines. Let's delve deeper into A-Type. In A-Type, levels advance every 10 lines cleared. However, after every level cleared, the game speeds up. It speeds up from levels 1 to 10. However, after level 10, the game speed only increases on level 13, 16, 19, and 29. And once you get to 29, it is almost impossible to clear any more lines because of how fast the blocks fall. And there's even a secret if you get a high enough score. At the very end, you can see Nintendo characters dancing and playing instruments. You have Donkey Kong banging on some drums, Link playing a flute, Metroid playing a violin thingy, and Mario and Luigi dancing. So we've gone over the modes, but next we're gonna go over the different types of tetrominoes that can fall. First, you have your long piece. This piece is the best one in the game. It allows you the ability to make a Tetris, which is where you clear 4 lines at once. It is the best move in the game. Next up is the squiggly, also known as an S. It is 2 blocks, and then 1 up, and then 1 more on the end, which makes it look like an S. It's okay, but it can be very challenging to use. It also comes in a pair with the reverse squiggly, or a Z. It's the same, but somehow so much worse. You know, it's okay to see an S every once in a while, but you never want to see a Z block. It can end your game. Next up, you have your J piece, which, I'm willing to bet you can guess, is shaped like a J. And there is also its counterpart, the L piece, which is the shape of an L. These two are exact opposites. Well, one's an L and one's a J. What more can you say? Oh, there is one more thing you can say, the T piece. This piece is used by expert players to perform incredible tricks that are almost impossible to comprehend. However, altogether, these blocks form the key gameplay of Tetris. So, we've talked about Tetris. But, did you know that there are actually 2 versions of Tetris for the Nintendo Entertainment System? That's right, and one of them was made by Atari, who at one point was the largest video game company in the world. However, after the video game crash, they became a much lesser company. However, they originally had the rights to a Tetris home console version, so they decided to release an unlicensed NES version of Tetris, which basically means they didn't pay Nintendo to license the lockout chip, because there's a certain chip you need for it to work, a Nintendo game to work, so they bypassed that. So they didn't pay Nintendo, which is bad. However, this version didn't sell as well as the original. With fewer than 100,000 copies known to exist, this version of Tetris, known as Tengen Tetris, has become a collector's item due to its limited time on the market and the fact that it was an unlicensed game, making it one of the rarest NES games. So, we've gone over modes, types, even a completely different version of the game, but what do I think about Tetris? Overall, I think Tetris is one of the best puzzle games ever made. Not only has it sold over 10 million copies, but it is just flat out one of the easiest to understand, but very challenging to master. It is such a good game that you can sink hours, days, years, months into and still not be great at it. It is a brand new challenge every single time you open the game. The pieces that fall are completely randomized, so you never know what you're gonna get. But most of all, it's not too hard. At some point in puzzle games, game designers either choose to make it ridiculously hard or way too easy, but Tetris, it strikes a perfect balance of being neither. It's just right, especially A-type. A-type is the best type. But every level where it speeds up, you can still make it until level 29, when it is physically impossible to. But otherwise, it is perfection in video game form. It is truly a great game. If you guys enjoyed the video, don't forget to like, share, and... Oh, come on again? Really? I was recently at this party and they were giving out gift bags. Haven't opened it yet, so let's see what's inside. Whoa! Oh! Really? Released in October of 1985, the Nintendo NES came at a time where gaming almost didn't survive. Atari had made such bad games that people were literally dumping them into the desert. So, instead of marketing their new console as a gaming console, Nintendo put it in the toy aisle, which then it sold very well, and then it kinda saved gaming. The Nintendo Entertainment System originally shipped with one game, one controller, and one zapper. The game was Super Mario Bros. Duck Hunt, a combo cartridge containing 2 games. However, these 2 games were a part of the starting lineup for the Nintendo Entertainment System. These games were called black box games because of their distinctive packaging. There were 24 of these black box games. From Duck Hunt to Super Mario Bros., there were plenty. However, the game we're reviewing today is one of these original black box games. Today, we're reviewing Pinball for the NES. But before we get into the game, there's one more thing about black box games that I think you should know. There were different subsections of these games. See, Pinball is a part of the Action series of black box games. Other Action series games include Mario Brothers, Clue Clue Land, and Urban Champion. Nintendo's Pinball is, well, pinball. It's the basic pinball game with a board layout including a side route where your ball kind of goes up in a curve. Up at the top there's 3 slots, 2 that give you 500 points, 1 that gives you 1,000. There's a 100 point knocky thingy in the middle. There's a platform that goes from left to right above some dancing penguins. And then there's the second screen, which has playing cards, some more of the knocker roundy things, 2 more paddles, there's paddles on the top one of course, and a pocket up in the top right hand corner that if your ball gets knocked into, you play a mini game featuring Pauline and Mario. In the mini games area, you controlled Mario Jumpman Mario, as he holds a Donkey Kong style platform with a ball bouncing off of it. This ball travels across 3 columns of numbers, and they change colors. And these pillars correspond to tiles above where Pauline is walking. And once you line up a column, that tile disappears, and Pauline falls through, and you have to catch her and guide her to one of the exits that are on the left and right of the area. After she leaves, you can just keep playing, and she goes back up there. And you could, in theory, do this infinitely for infinite points. Now, the design of the board could be a reference to the original pinball for the Game & Watch. Now, the reference is, of course, the colors. The design is similar, with it having similar shaped dividers and knocker roundy thingies. However, it is missing some of the features that is on the NES one. Like, there's 3 eggs down on the bottom layer, and if they all turn into ducks, you get 2 little yellow things, which stop your ball from bypassing the paddles and going straight into the bottom. You initially start out with 3 balls. However, you can gain more if you get enough points. Or, you can gain more if your ball falls into the exit row after knocking off 10 little tile thingies on the side. There's no good name for it, alright? There just really isn't. So, we've went over what the game's like, but how does it control? Well, I have my issues with it. Now, you may be asking, Noah, it's pinball. There's only 2 real controls. And to that, you're right. However, there's a big issue with these. While I was playing on my original NES with an original controller in great condition, I was frequently noticing dropped inputs. That's where I hit the button, but the button doesn't want to work with me. Basically, I'm hitting the button, but the button isn't activating in the game. Now, this wasn't like me rapidly pressing it or anything, because that I'd understand. These are old games. They don't really take into account that rapid button mashing. But it was like just a light tap, like just once, and it just wasn't picking it up. I did take apart my Nintendo controller and check it, but it was the game's fault, not my controller's. There is also a 2-player pinball mode. However, it is the same game, you just take turns with a second player. I don't know if you really could do 2-player pinball with one board, unless one person controls one paddle and the other person would control the other. But that's just a whole different thing, because I don't feel that would work that well. Curiously, when deciding on NES games for Nintendo's Campus Challenge, a gaming competition held at college campuses around the United States, instead of picking this version of pinball, they instead decided to choose Pinbot, another Nintendo-developed game. However, Pinbot is much, much worse than this one, where you can get the required amount of points to pass it in Campus Challenge by doing literally nothing. I'm not kidding. Pinbot is not a good game, and that is why this video is about pinball for the NES and not Pinbot. So, we've went over the game, what collection it was a part of when it was first released, how it was ignored by Nintendo in Campus Challenge, but what do I think about pinball for the NES? Overall, I think pinball for the NES is a great example of the early charm of Nintendo gaming. When Nintendo first released their NES, it was a gamble for them, as Nintendo originally started out as a toy company. but the Nintendo NES arguably saved gaming and created, well, what we know as gaming today. And for that, I am greatly thankful. However, it wasn't, smooth around the edges. It was rough around the edges. However, that kind of rough charm that Nintendo had is admittedly kind of lacking these days. All of them are so polished that there's no more janky charm to them anymore. However, games like these remind me of a simpler time. A simpler time which I was not alive during, but a simpler time nonetheless. And that's Pinball for the NES. One of not only the original NES games, but one of the best. Oh no, it's back. I'm gonna get it this time. I was getting ready for a trip, but I recently got this in the mail. Let's see what's inside, shall we? Huh. Well, would you look at that? Released in 1997 by Naughty Dog, Crash Bandicoot 2: Cortex Strikes Back is the sequel to the original Crash Bandicoot. Crash Bandicoot 2 was released for the PlayStation 1, and it builds off of the basic mechanics of Crash Bandicoot 1 wonderfully. You can now slide, high jump, crawl, and body slam, which builds off the original movement controls of running and jumping, adding a lot more depth to the platforming experience. And you use these moves to traverse the levels. And there are 5 main places these levels take place. You have a jungle, a snowy area, kind of a swampy jungle area, the sewers, an ancient temple, and space. However, there's more than just the locations to these levels. There's also level types. That's right. There's, I'd argue, 4 distinct types of levels. You have your typical, walking forwards levels. You have your side scrollers. But then you have your, what I call, Indiana Jones levels, where you are running towards the camera away from either a polar bear or a big boulder. Now, this was never really done before, especially in a platformer. Running towards the camera is unimaginable at this time in gaming, but Crash Bandicoot revolutionized it into something that we still see in games today with games like Mario Odyssey. Other than those, we have the jetpack levels, which are bad. They do not control that well. However, that's not really a big deal as there aren't that many within the game. And there's even levels where you ride a polar bear. That's right, you ride a polar bear. So, we've gone over the locations and types of levels, but what do you even do in them? Well, I'm glad you asked. You run through them breaking boxes, beating enemies, and collecting collectible items like crystals and gems. There are 3 main kinds of crystals. You have your purple ones, which are in every single level along the main path. Your completion gems, which you get for breaking every single crate within a level. And there is 5 special colored gems throughout the game. Well, would you look at that? It's time for the Time Loop Productions bonus round. Bonus levels consist of an extra area where you run around breaking crates, And you get to experiment with the movement and controls of the game, since if you die in a bonus area, you don't lose any lives. They also tend to have a puzzle, like figuring out how to jump across something with your movement options, or jumping on birds. Next up is the story. The game picks up right where Crash Bandicoot 1 left off, with Dr. N. Cortex falling from his space station back to the island. He falls and then he finds crystals. Then a whole year passes and Crash Bandicoot is abducted by Dr. Cortex in order to help him find crystals to save the planet. You then get called by Dr. Cortex's past assistant, Dr. Embryo, to help him find different crystals to take down Cortex. These different crystals, of course, being the colored ones and the ones you get for breaking all the boxes. Once that's done and you have defeated every single boss from every single world, you then fight Dr. Cortex in a one-on-one jetpack battle. After that, you and Embryo blow up Dr. Cortex's space station, giving you the secret ending. In the normal ending, well, the space station doesn't blow up. And that's about the only real difference. Now back there, you may have noticed I said boss fights. And that's right, within this game, there are boss fights. There's actually 5 if you include Dr. Cortex. The first one is Ripperoo, where he jumps around his stage, first placing TNT crates, then placing Nitro crates, which knock him out, and then you spin into him to deal damage. After him, there's the Komodo brothers, where one gets thrown spinning around the stage while the other one throws swords at you. Once the one is stopped spinning, you spin into him to deal damage and take the Komodo brothers down. Next up, Tiny Tiger. To beat him, you have to lure him into jumping where a falling platform used to be, since he follows you. And the penultimate boss is Engine, Dr. Cortex's evil helper. You fight him in a mech robot battle where he's in his robot firing missiles at you, and you have to dodge and then eventually spin into him. So we've gone over the story and the levels and the types of levels and the bosses and the bonus rounds. But what do I think about Crash Bandicoot 2? Overall, I think Crash Bandicoot 2, Cortex Strikes Back, is one of the best platformers of all time. It came at an era where the platforming genre was getting stale. However, it revolutionized the way games not only feel, but control and just look. This game is a blast to play, whether you've played it once or you're playing it for your millionth time. I really do enjoy this game. That was Crash Bandicoot 2 Cortex Strikes Back. Oh, okay. Wonder what that does. Oh no! Who keeps doing this?
I believe it.
Man. Sure isn't nice for... Ow! Wii Sports! The Nintendo Wii released in November of 2006, is the 6th generation console from Nintendo. The console was generally marketed as more of a casual gamer's device, as opposed to Nintendo consoles in the past that had somewhat confusing either controllers or general shapes. The Wii was created as a console that your grandma could use, but you could also play hardcore titles. Now, these hardcore titles never truly ever existed, but in order to draw people in and for them to see, hey, there's more than just Mario on here, they made Wii Sports. Now, allegedly, during the development of Wii Sports, they had people come in who had never played video games before to act as playtesters. Now, I don't know if this is true, but it would make sense why the game is so simple to understand. They're very basic concepts that anyone could play. But what are these concepts? Well, I'm glad you asked. But first, we should go over how it was originally packaged. Wii Sports originally was packaged alongside the Wii console in a little fold-out paper booklet thing. There's probably a more official word for it, but that's what I'm going to describe it as, a little paper booklet thing. It was stickered together on the outside. That's why a lot of copies have a rip in a circle shape on the right-hand side. And inside was the manual and the disc itself. The disc itself is blue with the little logos of the sports on them. So, Wii Sports consists of 5 main modes. You have boxing, golf, bowling, tennis, and baseball. So I'm going to break them down one by one, going over how you play and what they're like. Let's start off with boxing. Arguably the most simple one. All you do is plug in the nunchuck and kind of punch, honestly. You just punch at the me that you are fighting. It's very simple, very easy. It's very easy. This is by far the easiest game within Wii Sports. I think a ceiling fan could beat it, frankly. Next up is tennis. In tennis, you play doubles tennis, where you control both of your player Miis versus a duo of one of the other randomly selected Miis. The game is very simple, and it just consists of you slapping the Wii remote. And sometimes, if you want to hit the ball really hard, you can do like a smash, where you hit it from above. It is very, very simple and very, very easy. However, it does get harder the better your score is within the game. To win, you just have to hit your ball over the opponent's net and have it bounce twice. It's very simple, very easy. It's tennis. Next up is arguably the most iconic game in Wii Sports, Wii Sports Bowling. In this one, by holding down B on the Wii remote, swinging it forwards, and then releasing B, you throw your bowling ball down the bowling lane into the bowling pins. It's a standard game of bowling. It's simple, easy, but still fun. And you can even change the color of your bowling ball by inputting special codes on the loading screen. Next up is golf. There's 3 holes split between each of the difficulties: beginner, intermediate, and expert. There's also an option to play all 9 holes in one game. The game has simple and easy controls, where you swing the Wii remote, and that's how hard you hit your ball. You don't want to hit it too hard though, or else it could veer off in a wild direction. And lastly, the most complex game, we have baseball. In baseball, there's 2 main ways of play. You can either be the pitcher or the batter. For the batter, you swing your Wii remote in time with when the ball is coming towards you to hit the ball. And depending on how hard you hit it, you might even get a home run. Then you have the pitcher. And as the pitcher, it's your job to throw the ball at the batter. And you can throw it in different ways, like a curveball and other types of baseball ball throws. All right, we've went over the packaging, the console itself, the game's development history, and the controls. But what do I think about Wii Sports? Overall, I think Wii Sports is good family fun for a little bit. However, over time, it starts to wear thin and can be kind of boring after an hour or two. All right, looks like we're done with Wii Sports. Better put it away. Here we go, and whoa. Whoa! Whoa! No, it couldn't be. It's me! All right, today we're talking about WWF. Did you do this?
Yes.
You even changed the set for me. Okay. Really couldn't find me a different shirt?
You don't own an orange shirt.
Alright. We play! Wii Play was developed and published by Nintendo for the Wii in December of 2006. The game is a mini-game variety pack that features 9 original games, all involving the Wii pointer. But before we get into those, first we have to go over the packaging. The game originally came in a big box with an additional Wii controller. The price of it was just a little bit over what a normal Wii controller was. So it was practically a free game with a Wii controller. That way you could play 2-player games. Nintendo would do this with other games. However, this one was the first. So now, let's get into the mini games. First up is Shooting Range. In this mini game, you point at targets on the screen with the Wii Remote's pointer, and then fire with the B button to shoot all the targets. In later rounds, you also shoot pop cans and UFOs. The game is reminiscent of Duck Hunt for the original NES, in the fact that it is outside and there is grass. And occasionally, ducks can fly across the screen and you can shoot them. Other than that, that is where the similarities with Duck Hunt ends. This game is very simple, arcadey fun. There's not a lot to it, but it'll keep you entertained for maybe 10 or 20 minutes. Next up is Find Me. The title says it all. You have to find a me in a crowd. It's like Where's Waldo, but worse. There is nothing good about this game. It's just too easy. Even when they change the settings or turn the lights off, the game is so easy that I could do it blindfolded and still win. The game is just too easy. You can beat it in less than 5 minutes and then never play it again, which is what I recommend because it's so boring. Next up is table tennis. And if you were expecting it to be just like normal tennis on the Wii Sports, but with tables, you're wrong. All you do is move the Wii remote back and forth and trying to keep a rally going with a computer who apparently has never played table tennis before because it does everything in its power to not catch the ball. The whole point of the game is to get a rally going with it, but when you do, it immediately messes up. It's like Nintendo was trying to make it the least fun minigame that they've ever made. What were they thinking? Next up is Pose Me. And in this, you have to match your Mii up with the poses that fall down from the screen. Sounds fun? And it is. For a bit. It's fun, you know? There's a variety of poses you have to go through. And the bubbles slowly fall, and eventually they speed up, and it's a nice challenge. But it's actually pretty good, surprisingly. Next up is laser hockey. And it's just worse Pong. It is just worse Pong where you can move the paddles forwards. What they should have done is just make it so the paddles can only go up and down, and at least they'd be knocking off Pong while still having a playable game. But no, instead you can move it forwards so your ball can go behind you and you can score on yourself. And even then, the computer's way too easy. I just don't understand why it's so hard to make good minigames that include the Wii's pointer. Next up is billiards. It's a simplified version of pool. Use the Wii remote like a cue stick to strike the cue ball, which you can hit, tangle shots, and put balls into the pocket. It's simple, admittedly, but it's good. It's well executed, and it's one of the best games included in Wii Play. Unlike the next game, fishing. In this one, you catch different types of fish. You use the Wii remote like a fishing pole, lowering it into the water and quickly pulling it out when a fish bites. That's it. The only interesting thing here is for a limited amount of time, a certain fish can give you more points. That's it. It is this for almost 2 minutes. And not even the multiplayer saves it, because even then, you're just sitting there hoping that the fish that's biting your hook is the one that gives you bonus points. It is that for so long. I'd rather sleep. That's how much fun this game is. This game is so much fun that I would rather lay in my bed doing nothing, not even being conscious, than play this minigame. Next up is Charge, where you ride on a cow who attacks scarecrows while jumping over hurdles. You know what I think of when I think Nintendo? Oh, Mario, Yoshi, Link, Metroid? No! I think of a cow attacking scarecrows and jumping over hurdles. That's what I think of when I think the great Nintendo. And finally, there's tanks. In this game, you control a little toy tank and you drive it around and you shoot other tanks. Now this game is actually good. It's fun. There's like There's 100 levels you can play, each with different music depending on what tank's in it. There's multiple different types of tanks. It's very challenging, very rewarding, very fun. I don't get why they put all of their power into this one game. Honestly, I'd prefer it if they didn't do the rest of Wii Play and just flesh this out. Add another 200 levels, make it 300 levels, upload it as WiiWare to the Wii, and start printing your money, Nintendo! This game could have been its own game. I don't understand why they didn't just flesh this one out more. Give it a story. You're Captain Toy going on a toy tank adventure. Instead, you get the rest of these bad mini games that feel like second thought to this one. I don't get it. Okay, we've sure had fun today, but you know what? Think I'm gonna play a different game, okay?
No.
Oh, okay. See that you only really like Wii Play. Well, now that all my physical copies of games are Wii Play, I guess I'll go play some digital games on my Switch, huh? No, I've had enough. I don't want to play Wii games anymore.
No, only Wii games. They are perfect.
Look, I get that you like the Wii. I do too. But you can't only play the Wii forever.
Then you die.
Oh. Is this really how I'm gonna die? Killed by a me? No. I am Wii Boy! Hasta la vista, baby.
No.
Whew. Finally, everything's all back to normal. Today, I'm talking about the rarest game I've ever owned. Petscop. Developed and produced by Garalina for the PlayStation 1, Petscop is a very unique game. The game consists of you walking around the gift plane, a home for many pets and creatures. However, the gift plane is now abandoned, and it's your job to rescue all the pets left inside. Within the gift plane, there's 8 homes and 48 unique pets for you to collect and rescue. However, in order to not spoil too much of this game, I'm only going to be going over the first home and a select few pets. But how do you rescue them? Well, as your player character. Your character is this weird green thing. It's bald and has eyes and very large feet, but no hands. The first pet you find is a little ball-shaped thing named Ember. To catch Ember, you have to open one side of a cage, walk in, which makes Ember jump to the other side, and then you walk on over through a secret passage in the back to catch Ember and the first pet of the game. Next up is Pen, and to catch Pen, you have to run on a piano, but first you have to run on a treadmill until the screen shows the number 7 to make you match up with Pen to catch him. Next up is Ronith. In order to catch Ronith, first First, you need to find the bucket. And then, since Ronith runs away and then flies up into the air, you have to place the bucket under where Ronith comes back down from to catch Ronith in the bucket in order to catch yet another pet. But where do you get the bucket from? Well, from Wavy's room, of course. Wavy is a sentient rain cloud, and in order to catch it, you have to move the bucket under it, so when it rains, it gets trapped in the bucket. After you catch Wavy, you can catch Randus. In order to catch Randus, first, you have to catch Wavy, so Randus stops being watered. Then, Randus will droop, and then you can catch Randus. And that is the pets. There's many more, which I will leave you guys to go find. Next up is the marketing and packaging. However, I have some bad news. This game is so rare that I can't find any videos online about the case itself, or the actual packaging, or any of the marketing for the game. Lucky for us, I happen to have a copy, so we can go over the box art and what the disc looks like. The box art has your player character next to a present in a field of flowers, with the words Petscop across the top and the tagline for the game, "Bring them home." The disc itself has a very simple, almost homemade charm, with the Petscop logo in pink and a big gift box in the center under the disc hole. Next up, I want to go over the music, because the music in this game is just beautiful. It's really impressive that a PlayStation 1 game has such beautiful music. If Petscop's so good, why haven't you heard it before? Well, I'll tell you why. As far as I know, I am one of maybe 3 people who actually owns a physical copy of Petscop. So, we've gone over everything from the music, the gameplay, to even the fact that this game might be the rarest game in the world. But what do I think about Petscop for the PlayStation 1? Overall, I think Petscop is a revolutionary game that people should have bought more at the time when it was released, so there would be more available copies open to the public. This game is challenging, it forces you to think, it's fun, the music's great, the characters are beautifully designed, and I just had a blast playing it. If you can find a copy, I highly recommend getting it and playing the game for yourself, for you to truly experience what Petscop is all about. And that was Petscop. Overall, pretty fun. However, it could use some polish. Was that there the whole time? Go downstairs and press start, down, 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 right, start. Okay. Alright, down the stairs I go. With the Nintendo Switch 2 rapidly approaching, I want to go over what I want to see on the Nintendo Switch 2. we're gonna go over 3 games I want to see on the Nintendo Switch 2. First up is a new 3D Mario game. But I don't want to see Mario Odyssey 2. The game is just too new, and I feel like there's not really a lot left to do with the concept. But what I think that they could do is Super Mario Sunshine 2 Return to Delfino Isle. The game would consist of Mario and Peach returning to Delfino for yet another vacation. But this time, instead of Shadow Mario making a mess, this time it's just plainly Bowser Jr. taking over the entire island, including all the Piantas. And of course, Flood would return, and there'd be the parkour levels, and it would be really fun, and there'd be more boss battles, and more shine sprites, and more blue coins. Okay, next, I want to see a brand new Super Mario Maker. This one, of course, would be Super Mario Maker 3. And genuinely, I just want one new thing. The Super Mario Bros. Wonder theme in Super Mario Maker. This actually ties into my next idea for a game, Super Mario Bros. Wonder Beyond. A brand new level pack that could be paid DLC for the original Super Mario Bros. Wonder. Kind of how New Super Mario Bros. Deluxe came out for the original Switch. This would be a whole bunch of new levels and some extra challenge stages and a couple new characters for the base game. It would add more levels to a game that, if I'm being honest, felt really short. I really wish that there was another couple worlds in Super Mario Wonder, because the game was just so fun to play. However, there really wasn't much there. I don't care if they recycle the old Wonder effects. I don't need new ones. The game was just so buttery smooth and fun to play that some new levels would be great. Next up is a brand new 3D Zelda. But I have a controversial opinion on this one. I really think that they should move away from the Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom style. In some aspects of it. I think that having an open world and non-linear playstyles is great. However, I would really like some proper temples and dungeons. That's what's really been missing from Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, is some big puzzle-oriented structures that take an hour or two to complete all by themselves. What I do want to stay, though, is the weapon variety and weapon damage. I really like that weapons breaking forces you to be creative with how you approach enemies and monsters. I just wish that the temples were better, honestly. And if we could move away from all the technology stuff. It was really cool, don't get me wrong, and I really did enjoy building cars and boats and stuff. I feel like introducing a whole new group of people to justify it was a little dumb, honestly. I understand why they brought it in. However, what about the Master Cycle Zero from the DLC for the original Breath of the Wild? That was there. That was Sheikah technology. That was a car, a motorcycle. So why did the Zonai... Why did it need to be Zonai? Why couldn't it be ancient Sheikah sky people? You know? I just kind of feel like it's a bit of a cop-out. But next up is our last and final game that I want to see on the Nintendo Switch 2. I want to see a brand new F-Zero game. Now, this is probably the least likely one, just due to the fact that there's already going to be 2 racing games on the Switch 2, Kirby Air Riders and Mario Kart World. However, I really would like to see another F-Zero game, because F-Zero fills something that neither Kirby Air Riders or the new Mario Kart will. That is high-speed racing. F-Zero's fun because it takes a lot of effort to really get around the corners, and you're just going so fast, and it's really fun, but with the fact that they're already out of racing games, I just don't see it happening. Whoa! A magic lamp! I know what I'm gonna wish for. I wish for a Nintendo Switch 2! Ah! Back in my day, video games only had one button. Activision Classics for the PlayStation 1 takes 30 of Activision's Atari 2600 games and brings them into the modern age for that time period, and onto the PlayStation 1. Let's go over the packaging! However, today's gonna be pretty unique, since we actually have 4 packaging options to go over, since there's too many games for me to cover in one video, so we're only going over 3. But let's go over the packaging for the disc itself first, then we'll go into the sub-packaging of the specific games. The PlayStation 1 disc is red with the name Activision Classic Games on top, and with the PlayStation logo on the left-hand side. The cover art has a television with the words Activision Classic Games inside, with Atari 2600 box art in the background. The back page has a list of all the games in it, as well as some gameplay screenshots and a description of what the game is. So, now you may be asking, Noah, what games are you going to go over? There's 30 to choose from, which ones? Well, I'm going to go over the games that I want to talk about, which are Kaboom, Pitfall, and Dragster. Pitfall was originally released for the Atari 2600 in 1982. The player controls Pitfall Harry, who has a time limit of 20 minutes to search the jungle for treasure. The game also has enemies and hazards that can make you lose lives or points. The game came in a green box with a drawn image of what the game kinda looks like, with the words Pitfall atop the cross. Across the top. Oh boy. Next up is Kaboom. Kaboom was released in 1981, and the game consists of you catching bombs being thrown off of the top of a building by the Mad Bomber. Eventually, it speeds up, and you have to catch these bombs with water buckets in order to stop them from blowing up. Now, this game was originally controlled with something called the paddle, which was pretty much just a knob that you twist to make the water buckets move. And this movement wasn't, ported very well. The analog sticks for the original PlayStation 1 aren't compatible with it on the Atari collection, so you're stuck using the D-pad, which works, but it's not really as nice and precise as a paddle would be. I think they should have made a paddle accessory for it, but that probably would have made it cost more money. The The game came in a purple box with another artist's rendition of the game on the front and the word Kaboom with an exclamation point across the top of the box. And finally, we have Dragster. Dragster is a racing game, and it was released in 1980 by Activision, and it was one of their first ever games. The point of the game is to either beat your opponent or to race against the clock for the best time. This game actually has some controversy surrounding it, and this is because of the world record. In 1982, Todd Rogers claimed the world record with a time of 5.51 seconds until in 2018, Twin Galaxies and Guinness World Records removed his world record, resetting it back to what it was before at 5.57 seconds. This is because a time of 5.51 seconds is impossible to get without hacking the game. The box art is a darker purple than Kaboom and has two cars racing against each other with red, yellow, and orange lines and a trail of smoke behind them. It also has a badge across it saying a new game cartridge for your Atari video game system. Overall, it's a great compilation of Activision's earliest hits. However, some of the controls just don't hold up. That doesn't mean it isn't good, family-friendly fun for a few minutes. Now, if you'll excuse me, we're having pea soup down at the cafeteria. Oh, my... Yeah. No! Ah! Halo was released on November 15th, 2001 for the original Xbox. The game consists of you playing as Master Chief, a Spartan tasked to take down the Covenant, an alien race trying to activate the Halo Ring, which will destroy the universe. There's a lot to get into, so let's go into the packaging. The box art has the Master Chief on a grassy plain with the halo in the background. And the disc itself has Master Chief and some other UNSC soldiers in a warthog. Next up is the story, in which there are 10 levels for you to play in. These levels are the Pillar of Autumn, Halo, the Truth and Reconciliation, the Silent Cartographer, Assault on the Control Room, 343 Guilty Spark, the Library, 2 Betrayals, Keys, and the Maw. So, let's go over them. In the Pillar of Autumn, you wake up in a cryo chamber and make your way to the bridge in order to talk to Captain Keyes. However, once you get up there, the ship is under attack by the Covenant. They break into the ship, and it's your job to gun them down and make it to an escape pod. Next up is the stage Halo. In this one, after falling onto the Halo Ring itself, you have to go around station to station in order to save your fellow soldiers from the Covenant. Next up is the Truth and Reconciliation. And in this one, first, you start off in a rocky desert area, and then you board a Covenant ship in order to rescue the captured Captain Keyes. Then, after you escape from the Covenant ship, you end up in the Silent Cartographer, where you need to search for a map room created by an ancient species in order to learn the secrets of the Halo Ring. And then you're in Assault on the Control Room, in which you have to stop the Covenant from assaulting the control room. Next up is 343 Guilty Spark. In this level, you run through a swamp, but the Covenant aren't fighting you. They're running away. They're fleeing the Flood, a zombie-like race of parasites that latch onto and take control of other creatures, from the Covenant to your fellow UNSC military companions. You also find 343 Guilty Spark, a robot that was left behind by the ancient civilization in order to wipe out the Flood if they ever got out. Next up is the library, where you have to walk around for a long time and defeat the Flood for a far too long time in order to get to a room where you can basically like start the thing, the destruction of the Flood. In the 2 betrayals, you get betrayed by 343 Guilty Spark, and you learn that the Halo Ring will actually wipe out all of civilization so the Flood can't spread. In Keys, you board another Covenant ship in order to try to rescue Captain Keys. However, by the time you find him, he has been infected by the Flood and joined into one of their creatures. You then steal a Banshee in order to fly out of there and back to the crashed landing site of the Pillar of Autumn in the last level of the game, the Maw. In this one, you have to not only stop the Halo Ring, but you also have to drive out of the exploding Pillar of Autumn before you explode within it. So, we've gone over the story, but what else is there to Halo? Well, there's also the multiplayer mode, where you can play against friends in order to take them out in a variety of different modes. Different modes like Capture the Flag, Slayer, and Oddball. In Slayer, all you really do is just take out your opponents. It's pretty simple. You just shoot them. In Capture the Flag, you capture the flag in order to score points against the enemy team. And in Oddball, you need to hold a skull for a set amount of time in order to win. Another important part of Halo is the vehicles. There's 4 vehicles in the game to talk about. The Scorpion, which is just a literal tank. The Warthog, which is basically a big all-terrain vehicle. It either has like a laser gun or a turret on the back. It's like the most iconic vehicle in all of Halo. The Ghost, which is a Covenant hovercraft type vehicle that like speeds around and they always hit you with it, and it's really annoying. And the Banshee, a Covenant fighter pilot thingy that's purple. All the Covenant vehicles are purple, and all the UNSC vehicles are military colored. It's really simple. So we've gone through it all, from the gameplay to the story to even the vehicles. But what do I think of Halo 1 Combat Evolved? Overall, I think Halo 1 Combat Evolved is a great starting point for the Halo franchise. It introduces all of the characters you need to know, all of the basic themes, the enemies, the fact that there's multiple rings eventually in the second game. I mean, it's kind of teased in the first one because it says installation 04, which like, oh, it's 1 through 3, but it's good. I like it. I think out of all the Halo games, Halo Reach is obviously the best one, but we aren't talking about that one. We're talking about this one, and this one's good, Shotgun's a bit too powerful in multiplayer, but like, otherwise, it's a good game. It's good. And that was Halo. And oh no! Oi, crikey! Today, we going on a duck hunt. Duck Hunt was released in October of 1985 alongside Super Mario Bros. In a combo cart that was included with the Nintendo Entertainment System. There was also a separate version, and that's the one we're going to be looking over for the box art. The box art has a duck flying across the sky with an explosion in front of it, and that's it. This game was a part of the Black Box series, which were the initial games released for the Nintendo Entertainment System. This game was part of the Zapper collection, because it uses the Nintendo Zapper. There's 3 different modes you can play in Duck Hunt. There's one duck mode, where one duck flies across the screen, 2 duck mode, where 2 ducks fly across the screen, and clay pigeon shooting, where you shoot clay pigeons. It's pretty self-explanatory, really. Alright, well, let's get it set up. Why isn't it working? Well, it's not working because of how the game tracks if you've shot at it. The game momentarily flashes a black screen with a white square where you're aiming, and the gun takes the light that it sees through this barrel and relates that information through the controller port to the game. Same way that a button input would be. So it reads it and then it shoots it back into the game. However, this only works with CRT televisions. With modern flat screens, you cannot play Duck Hunt traditionally. So, we've gone over everything from the modes to the packaging, to even why it's kinda hard to play the game nowadays. But what do I think about Duck Hunt? Well, overall, I think it's an arcadey fun type of thing that does get kind of boring after a while. There's only so many ducks you can shoot before you kind of want to stop. But then you can go to clay pigeon shooting mode, and by the time you're bored with that, you might want to shoot ducks again. However, at some point, you are going to get tired of shooting things, and you're probably going to want to play Mario. Ah! The hunter has become the hunted! Ah! 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 Your Honor, the pack is back. Pac-Man, originally known as Puck-Man in Japan, was released in 1980 by Bandai Namco in arcades. In North America, the game was released through Midway Manufacturing as a part of a licensing agreement with Namco. The player controls Pac-Man, who is a yellow circle, who must eat all the dots in a maze while avoiding all the ghosts. But if you get a big dot, it's your turn to chase the ghosts around and chomp them down. These special dots are known as power pellets, and they turn the ghosts blue so you can chomp them up. The ghosts you run away from are Blinky, the red ghost, Pinky, the pink ghost, Inky, the blue ghost, and Clyde, the yellow ghost. Clyde's my favorite. Now you may be asking, well, how do you beat the game? And here's the thing. You can't. Technically. Since it's an arcade game, there is no true ending to Pac-Man. However, after 256 levels, you get to what the game calls a kill screen that, due to a data error, completely destroys the maze, making it impossible to continue. The original arcade machine was yellow with a photo of what Pac-Man originally was thought to look like when he is in a yellow circle, and one of the ghosts. There was also a version that had wood paneling on the side. However, I really prefer the yellow one, as that's what I think of when I think of Pac-Man. The point of the game was to create a game that could appeal to women as well as men, because most of the video games at that time had themes that were more masculine, like sports and shooting stuff. It's said that the character of Pac-Man was originally inspired by a pizza with one slice removed. Pac-Man then went on to become one of the biggest arcade games ever made. Not quite rivaling Space Invaders, but it did very well for the time. So, we've talked about everything, from the game design, to the arcade cabinet design, to the gameplay, to even what the names of the ghosts are. But, what do I think about Pac-Man? Overall, I think Pac-Man deserves the respect it has as one of the best arcade games ever made. Although now it may be viewed as rather simplistic and after a couple rounds it may lose its luster, it's still a very fun game that you can play on almost any device you own now due to how popular Pac-Man is. I really think that this is one of the best arcade games ever made. I'm playing Hide-Light. Hide-Light was released in 1984 for Japanese computers. However, in 1986, it was ported to the Nintendo Entertainment System. That's the version we're going to be talking about today. In Hydlide, you play as Jim the Knight and go on a quest to rescue the princess by finding 3 fairies that she's made out of after she's exploded by a magical sorcerer. Yup! The story is very basic. However, this game came out before The Legend of Zelda, so as much as it is very, very similar to The Legend of Zelda in the way that the map moves, works, and that you move a guy around, there are some major differences that make Zelda much, much better. One of those being the music. You hear that? That is the only music in the entire game. That's right. No matter what you're doing, all you're hearing is da na na da 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 na na da 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 da. And after a while, it gets on your nerves. Now I get that creating music is hard. It took me like 50 minutes just to make the little jingle that plays before my videos. But you're telling me they couldn't have made 3 more seconds of unique music? For maybe like, oh, I don't know, any other part of the game? When you're saving, it's da na 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 na. When you're fighting a boss, it's da na 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 na. When you do anything in this game, it is that music that is just a ripoff of the Indiana Jones theme. And that's about as much as I can play of the Indiana Jones theme without getting sued. Okay, let's move on to something else. Let's move on to the gameplay. You have 2 basic modes, defend and attack. Now, you may be saying, why do you need 2 different modes? Can't you just do one or the other? Well, in this game, you attack by walking into your enemies. You don't swing your sword, you just walk into them and hope that they don't kill you. So in defend, you take less damage, but you also do less damage. But in attack, you do more damage, but you also take more damage. Why couldn't you just let me swing my sword? I just don't get it. You also have a life, strength, and experience points meter, which go up as you level up from killing monsters, again, by walking into them. Half the time you walk up and you die, then you start back over and then the music's still playing going da na 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 na. It's a nightmare. It's a continuous nightmare. Now, you may have noticed I skipped over a meter, and that would be your magic meter, and that is because all of these spells, except for in one very specific case, are completely useless. They might as well not be in the game. You use them once to kill 2 enemies at once with the wave spell, and that's it. There is no other reason for the magic to be in the game. It barely does any damage, and half of them aren't even good. Most of them take multiple shots to kill an enemy, and even then, by then your bar is empty, so what are you gonna do then? You have to run into your enemies again, all while listening to the music. There's no point. This game has no point. You know what? How about we take a break from the game itself and let's talk about the packaging. You know what? The packaging's pretty good. The Hydlide logo is nice and defined. There's a nice gradient in the background. The dragon and the photo of Jim looks really good. Honestly, this might be the best part of Hydlide, the box art. So you know what? Instead of playing the game, you can put Hydlide on your shelf so you never actually have to see the nightmare that is the game. It's over. It's finally over. What do I get? That's it? I suffered for that? No, you listen to me. And you listen good. Don't play Hydlide. Don't take it into your home. Stay away. Stay away from Hydlide.
Wow! This sure is one angry bird. Angry Birds is a mobile game released in 2009 where you play as some angry birds trying to get their eggs back from the evil green pigs. Angry Birds is actually really special to me. And that's because it was one of the very first video games I ever played. On this bad boy. Now this was the original camera for some of my oldest videos. And on it is the original version, if it loads, of Angry Birds. See, Rovio, and then Angry Birds. Spent hours on this game. But does it still hold up? Well, let's start with the basics. The controls. The controls are very simple. The game's a touchscreen game, so you have to use your fingers. But all you do is tap and hold down on the back of the slingshot used to fire the birds, pull back, change the angle at which you want to launch them, and launch them towards the pig structures. To take out the pigs, gain points, and then, if you hit enough of them, gain up to 3 stars. Speaking of birds, there's many different types that you can use in the game. You have your standard bird, Red, which has no special powers, but is nice and useful for every situation. There's the blue birds, which, when you tap the screen, split into 3 birds. These ones are really good at breaking glass. There's Chuck, the speedy bird, who, when you tap the screen, gets a sudden burst of speed in whatever direction he is currently heading. Bomb, which explodes. Matilda, which lays an explosive egg. Hal, who is kind of like a boomerang. Terrence, he's Terrence. Bubbles, the bird that expands like a balloon. And the mighty eagle, which is the most powerful of all birds. You can only use him once per level, and he comes down from the sky to cause havoc. And there's 4 distinct types of pigs for you to take down as the Angry Birds. There's your standard pig, which has nothing special about him. Your helmet pig, who wears a protective helmet. Mustache pig, who has a mustache. And king pig, who has a crown and is the biggest of all the pigs. So, we've gone over the basic premise, the birds, and the pigs. But what do I think about Angry Birds? Overall, I think Angry Birds is the prime example of what mobile games should be. Fun, easy to understand, with a lot of levels. And, depending on how you play it, without ads. However, that's not a realistic thing to find on the App Store anymore. Not only has the original versions of almost all Angry Bird games been taken off of the App Store by Rovio, but now the App Store is full of scam games that are just ads so the developers can make money. Angry Birds really was one of the first and last truly great mobile games. You know, sometimes it's nice to go back and look at something from a simpler time, when there were less worries and you didn't have to care as much. It's nice. You know, I wonder what that could be.
Oh, wow. It's beautiful. I better get this inside before anybody sees.
Donkey Kong is the lovable ape from Kong Island. He was originally going to be the Popeye character Bluto for the original version of the Donkey Kong arcade game. However, due to licensing issues, he had to be changed. That's when Shigeru Miyamoto created Donkey Kong, Jumpman, and Pauline. Jumpman, of course, later became Mario. After the initial success of the arcade game, Donkey Kong drifted along, relegated to educational games and bad sequels, lost after Mario eclipsed him as Nintendo's golden goose. But then, suddenly, he got hooked to some power. Superpower. The Super Nintendo released in 1990, and it came with Mario World. Yet again, Donkey Kong had been snubbed, but the power grew and grew until DK exploded back onto the scene in Donkey Kong Country. However, there was controversy, and in the documentary Donkey Kong Country Exposed, this controversy was brought to light. This controversy was how it was made. It was made with Silicon Graphics computers, with 3D models, technically making this the first Nintendo game where you control a 3D model. Nintendo was very ahead of the time with this decision, but Nintendo didn't actually make the game. A small company at the time called Rareware, who was based out of England, made the game. And they were the driving force between Donkey Kong's revival and the entire franchise up until the beginning of the GameCube era.
Now that I'm safe, I can finally show you what I found. This is the box for Donkey Kong Country, which is a rare find due to its cardboard construction. The box itself has the Nintendo and Super Nintendo logo on the front, alongside the ESRB rating, which is K-A, kids to adults. Along the right-hand side, there's 16 vertical yellow dots, representing the 16 bits of the console's games. There's also a red to yellow gradient in the corner, saying only for Nintendo. These features are common across all Super Nintendo games. The unique features are the sprawling art containing Donkey and Diddy Kong fleeing a cavalcade of enemies, with the Donkey Kong Country logo up in the top left-hand corner. The Donkey Kong Country logo is a blend of the old Donkey Kong logo with a different font for the word country, surrounded by a green leafy jungle backdrop. The sides of the box each have the jungle backdrop with the Donkey Kong Country logo, and on the top and bottom there's a red line that wraps onto the front. The back of the box has 4 screenshots of the game with a blurb written about the game to the left of them. Donkey Kong is back with a new sidekick, Diddy Kong, in a crazy island adventure. Challenged by the crazed tribe of reptilian Kremlings, they endeavor to get back their stolen banana horde. Armed with lightning-quick moves, chest-pounding muscle, and awesome aerial acrobatics, our duo is ready to face their cunning adversaries with the help of Donkey Kong's quirky family and his wild animal mounts. They squabble and scamper their way through unending monkey mayhem. The back of the box also has the jungle background and the Nintendo seal of quality. I think it's time to open it up. Let's go over the manual. The cover has the box art elongated to the full size of the manual
On the first page, you can see the original Donkey Kong has aged into Cranky Kong, a helper character who appears throughout the game and the manual, making witty quips. The first real page delves into the story of the game. Diddy Kong is taking his turn guarding the banana horde when he's ambushed by the Kremlings, and all the bananas are stolen, so it's your job as the player to reclaim the bananas. Next up is the 3 modes you can play in: 1-player, 2-player contest, and 2-player team. The first 2 are pretty self-explanatory, but the 2-player team mode is quite unusual. 1 player plays as Donkey Kong, and the 2nd player controls Diddy Kong. The players switch whenever one is injured, which I've never seen before in a game. The next page in the manual explains the map of Kong Island, on which you can find Candy Kong, Donkey Kong's girlfriend, and the saving point in between levels. There's also Funky's Flights, which allows you to return to previously completed levels and play them again to find secrets or collect lives. Speaking of lives, there's 3 distinct versions of the classic 1-up in this game. There's a red, green, and blue balloon, each worth a different number of lives. Another collectible is the Kong tiles. Collect all 4 hidden across the level for an extra life. Like this. Next up is the barrels. There's 8 unique barrels in the game, starting with the basic barrel. It's pretty simple. It's a barrel. You just throw it and it breaks. You can use it to fight enemies, but otherwise it's pretty useless. Then there's the TNT barrel. This barrel explodes on impact, so be careful when you grab it. After that, you can find the barrel cannons that launch you far. There's 2 kinds. One that you can choose to fire at any time, and ones that launch you immediately, so watch out. There's DK barrels that contain whatever Kong you don't currently have. Next is the checkpoint barrel. That is, well, a checkpoint. Pretty self-explanatory. And finally, there's the steel kegs that are indestructible, which you can also roll on top of like in classic cartoons. There's also the animal friends: Rambi the rhino, Espresso the ostrich, On Guard the swordfish, Winky the frog, and lastly, Squawks the parrot. Each with unique abilities, like running fast, attacking with a horn, holding a light, and even attacking underwater. And now the final pages in the manual that go over the enemies. There's crushes, clumps, critters, rock crocs, zingers, neckies, mini neckies, manky kongs, armies, slippas, and then there's the aquatic enemies: Chomps, Chomps Jr., Squidge, Croctopus, and Climb. And that's the end of the manual. So, let's get to the game itself. It's time to end this. Let's start off with the main setting of the game. The game mainly takes place on Kong Isle, which is an island in the shape of Donkey Kong's head, which makes me wonder if the shape of it was that before or after Donkey Kong was born. You know, there's 6 unique types of levels on Kong Island. I'm gonna go over them one by one. First up is your typical jungle levels that mostly consist of jumping around trees and avoiding baddies. There's actually a subcategory here called a bottomless pit level, where you're either being shot from barrels or swinging from vines. There's not much other to say than that, you know, because it's bottomless. So let's move on to the next type of level, the cave level. These levels are levels that take place, you guessed it, in a cave. There's a subset here, and that's minecart levels, where you ride around in a minecart avoiding enemies and broken track. Following that, there's water levels, which nobody likes, so I'm not going to talk about them. After that, there's the temple levels, which are very unique, taking place in an ancient Kong temple with big rodent-operated wheels trying to crush you. Our second to last type of level is snow levels. With slippery controls and winter storms, these levels are quite the challenge. And the last type is the factory levels. These levels are by far the most unique type of level in the game, where you're jumping through a Kremlin factory, which produce oil barrels and other various evil things.
But do you want to know something? I lied.
That's right, there's actually 7 types. The 7th and final type is the boss levels. There's 7 bosses in the game, including the final boss, so let's go through them. First up is Very Naughty, which is just a sized up version of a base game enemy. Mario rules apply here, folks. Jump on it 3 times to take it out. After that, you fight Master Neki. You yet again jump on a sized up enemy's head 3 times. The third boss is Queen Bee, which is just a sized up zinger.
How original.
This one actually has some originality to it. You can't jump on it, so you have to throw barrels, and each time you hit it, it speeds up, making it more challenging as time goes on, which is really fun. But now, I have to address one of the biggest issues I have with the game. It completely reuses 2 previous bosses with minimal changes. These bosses are Really Naughty and Master Neki, Sr. Now, I understand that this game was groundbreaking and that it wasn't easy to make this game, but you're telling me they really couldn't just size up 2 more enemies? Like, come on, Rareware, it wouldn't have even been that hard. After those 2 is Dumb Drum, which is a barrel that spits out other enemies for you to fight, which is unoriginal. They couldn't even program an attack where the barrel rolls at you, like in the classic Donkey Kong. After that is the final boss of the game, King K. Rool. Now this boss fight is actually unique and fun. He starts off by throwing his crown at you, which you have to jump over. Then he rushes at you. After you jump on his head once, he starts bouncing around trying to stomp you, and then cannonballs start falling from the sky. Jump on his head a couple more times to take him out.
Overall, the game is fun and challenging. However, sometimes the challenge of it all outweighs the fun, and it gets pretty repetitive.
Hey! No, it's okay. There's nothing to be afraid of.
You're me!
Technically,
But how are you
yes.
here?
Look, the details are
But
unimportant.
how are you hit?
But I'm here to help you.
With what?
Reviewing a game.
What game?
Game & Watch Gallery 2 for the Game Boy Color.
Really?
Yeah. And killing you.
Wait, what?
No, it's okay. There's nothing to be afraid of.
You're me!
Technically,
But how are you
yes.
here?
Look, the details are
But
unimportant.
how are you hit?
But I'm here to help you.
With what?
Reviewing a game.
What game?
Game & Watch Gallery 2 for the Game Boy Color.
Really?
Yeah. And killing you.
Wait, what?
Nope.
Nope, I'm dreaming, and you aren't real, and I'm gonna wake up any second, and you aren't gonna be sitting there, and I am dreaming. I'm not a dream. I'm you. And you are gonna review the game. Why Game & Watch Gallery 2? Because sometimes you have to go back. Okay?
Game & Watch Gallery 2, released in 1998, is the sequel to Game & Watch Gallery 1. Much like the original, Game & Watch Gallery 2 contains 5 Game & Watch games, both the original versions and modern remakes. However, before we go over the games, we should go over the packaging. The packaging has the Game & Watch Gallery logo with a 2 in it now across the top. On top of some art of Donkey Kong throwing barrels at Mario, Mario dodging hammers, Yoshi whacking a Shy Guy, Toad parachuting into a boat that's being driven by Mario, and Peach in the kitchen cooking up some eggs and bacon. The first game is Parachute, where you have to catch people, well, parachuting into waters. However, you have to catch them in their boat because in the water there's sharks, which try to eat them if they land in the water. You have 3 lives and that's it. However, in the modern version, you play as Mario, catching Toad, Yoshi, and a Koopa, each with different ways of falling. And there's a cannon on the side that they can sometimes land in, only for them to be shot out again. The Koopa falls the fastest, with Yoshi's falling slightly slower than they do, and Toad's typically falling the slowest. Overall, this game's pretty fun, and pretty easy. I actually really like this one. It's one of my favorites.
There! I reviewed the game! Now, what do you want? What? You think you get to play one game out of the 5 of them and magically I'm just gonna tell you what's going on? Play another game.
Next up is Helmet, where you have to walk across the ground into a house to end up back in an apartment building while tools fall from the sky. This one doesn't make much sense to me, folks. This one's bad. Just full tilt, classic version bad, not fun. Unclear on why the score goes up. I am confused and scared. However, in the modern version, you have to avoid a hammer bro with wings who flies around throwing hammers at you. And a P-switch shows up that when you jump on, you can collect coins for extra points. This version actually makes sense. You know, because, coins make your score go up, and now there's a reason for there to be hammers falling from the sky, because it's a hammer bro,
What? Why are you trying to kill me? Oh, God. Why are you doing this to me? What do you think I am? What do you think I have been? What do you mean, have been? It was you. You've been doing it this whole time. You're the one who sent the TNT. You're the one who dropped the Tetris piece on me. You sent the me.
Next up is Chef. In this game, you play as a chef who has to juggle 3 meat products as your other chefs have left. On the side, there's a little mouse who sometimes forks one of your meat products and then drops it at a later time. Overall, this game's really cute. Every time you drop it, a little mouse comes out and takes the one that you dropped. And sometimes, the game can be pretty challenging, as they all fall pretty close to each other. So, you have to keep a keen eye out for when they're coming down and how close they are to the ground. The modern version actually changes things up quite a bit. Instead of being some random cook, this time you're Princess Peach. And instead of mice coming to get your food, it's Yoshi. However, once you get a certain level of cook on the meat and eggs, you can actually feed them to Yoshi for additional points. But be careful, sometimes you have to flip around to get it. And Yoshi follows whatever way you're facing. So if something's in the wrong spot or facing the wrong way, Yoshi won't eat it. and then he'll be sad.
Okay, fine. Look, I made it all the way to Chef. Are we done now? Can't have you dying wearing that. You aren't even wearing your own merch. Okay, look. I'll play Vermin. Look, there. I'll play Vermin.
After Chef, there's Vermin. In Vermin, you play as a boy in his garden, whacking moles that are coming to take your fruit, or veggies, or really anything that grows in a garden. It's pretty simple. You move left and right, and you have two freakishly long arms that smash the moles, or gophers, probably gophers. The game's pretty simple, honestly. I've easily racked up a score of over 500 on my Legend of Zelda version. Overall, it's pretty simple. However, the modern version adds a nice challenge to it, where instead of defending a garden from gophers, you're defending Yoshi eggs from Fly Guys. And instead of it just being left and right, it's in 360 degrees. They come from all angles to get the eggs, which is pretty hard at some points. However, each egg has a little bit of a shield against it, being an egg and all, so it can take up to 3 hits before it cracks, and that's for each egg, which slightly takes away from the challenge that makes this version so much fun.
Okay, I played them all. I'm done. All right. Game over. Ah! Why are you trying to kill me? Why do you think I have been? Because you are a failure. Out of everything I've created, you've done the worst. Don't you get it? I am not you. You are me. I created you. I'm the owner of the channel. And because of you, I've done the worst I ever have. Your videos hit or miss, and they've just been missing and missing. So now I am here to remove the infection that has plagued my channel for far too long. Channel? What the hell are you talking about? You think I mean? Do you not remember who you are? I've done this before. Don't you remember being super loopy? Don't you remember fighting an evil teddy bear? You've done this before, and so have I. But the only difference is I continue and you will not. Super loopy. What the hell are you talking about? I'm Noah. I'm Noah's Game Review. That's all I've ever been. I forgot a game. There's still Donkey Kong. Game & Watch Gallery 2, there's still Donkey Kong at the very end. You know what? Fine. Review the last game. It will be your last game.
The final game in Game & Watch Gallery 2 is Donkey Kong, which was actually a dual-screen Game & Watch game. How do they pull this off with the single screen of the Game Boy? Well, they add a button for you to switch screens. At least in the classic version. In the classic version, you have to jump over barrels and do normal Donkey Kong stuff until you get to the second layer, at which you have to avoid barrels being thrown directly at you and flick a lever, and that's how you get points. Flicking a lever. However, in the modern version, it controls much smoother and makes a little bit more sense. The point in this version is to still jump over barrels. However, while you're doing so,
you also have to get up top to flick a lever to create a platform to take you up to the very top to knock down a chunk of Donkey Kong's platform. Once you knock them all down, you can rescue, at this point, Princess Peach, but if it were the original, it would still be Pauline. But it's not. It's Princess Peach.
You know something? Maybe you're the infection. Maybe you are what needs to be removed!